To the Marines in my squad, I offer my deepest apologies for putting on radiating impact. In other news, the friendly fire is quite potent. Okay, yeah, obviously, this is going to be a concern. If you're running friendly fire, definitely make sure you keep an eye on things like radiating impact. I even went as far as to take ambush off of sniper, those type of perks, like maybe Wrath of the Imperium. We're going to get into it. We're going to see how people are reacting to friendly fire, and we want to see what to look out for and everything like that. But first, let's see what it looks like to radiating impact your teammates. I'm glad that this player definitely went out of their way to apologize to the squad. Salute. Very cool. Guys, definitely be careful with this condition. I feel like this is another situation where it is kind of like you really need to make sure you are reading the conditions, because if you jump into hard stratagems, hard weeklies, whatever, with a perk that is potentially detrimental, like this is honestly the Ascension situation with the Assault class. That used to be bugged. Whenever you would lift off, if you had the Ascension perk, the teammates around you would get damaged, and it staggered them, I believe. It's honestly a great perk. I love using it, but if it's bugged, it's not great. And a lot of people don't think it's great. I just like using it. It is what it is. But yeah, let's take a look at this unfortunate friendly fire clip. Okay, we are here in stratagems. I obviously see the tactical, Vanguard, sniper. Ooh, 2 teammates with Guardian Relics, so that's pretty good. That's honestly pretty good for this situation. It's not in hard mode. I'm kind of curious to see if some of these perks are more dangerous in hard mode, considering difficulty scaling, but I assume that is the case. Dude, wow. Okay, yeah, they instantly went down. they instantly went down. Hey, guys, again, they had Guardian Relics. This is actually not that bad of a situation. It's still pretty concerning. It's definitely a huge warning to you guys. Make sure you are being careful around your teammates, in both situations here. Don't be next to the Pyroblaster Heavy and get mad at him for hitting you, but also maybe keep an eye on what perks you're using. If you don't want to deal splash damage to your teammates, you should likely take off things like radiating impact. Yeah, I already mentioned before, I had ambush on sniper. I'm not too sure, maybe zone of impact. I did hear people saying zone of impact actually isn't affected by friendly fire, and that is what we're going to go into next. Suspicious behavior. Damaging skills such as radiating impact, grapple AoE, etc. count as friendly fire for this modifier. I accidentally nuked my squad _2 with radiating impact in the ballistic engine weekly, once without knowing, and the second time off muscle memory kicking in. Oh wow, okay, so he's saying he did radiating impact on his teammates twice, which is pretty interesting. I'm glad they were good sports and didn't kick me. So this is where we're going to have to keep an eye on which perks for friendly fire are the worst to run into, or perhaps maybe perks we should start to avoid. I did also hear players talking about melee damage not being something that is shared with friendly fire because of the way that it is worded. Not to mention the way that it is worded anyway. If I take a look right now, it does say suspicious behavior, friendly fire damage from firearms and explosive is enabled. So I'm honestly not even sure if this information is correct as far as zone of impact, the grapple AoE. And not to mention, yeah, like Wrath of the Imperium, for example. I mean, technically it does explode, right? So it does make sense why that would hurt your teammates. But Zone of Impact, I'm not too sure if that grapple AoE damage is like the same as radiating impact, for example. They are definitely 2 different effects. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this one. Definitely let me know in the comments how you guys are dealing with suspicious behavior. For me personally, I'm just in the back. I am playing sniper. I'm making sure that I am both away from my teammates, but still making sure I'm in a position to be impactful in the fight. I really hope assault players aren't like slamming down and hurting their teammates, but I think I've already seen some footage where that is not the case. So yeah, you don't have to worry about, being an assault player and just hitting people with your slam. However, I would be concerned about either Ascension or the Jump Pack Dodge perk, where if you use that, if you use the dodge and it is a perfect dodge, you actually deal damage to the enemies around you. maybe that potentially could hurt your teammates as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to dive into the comments, see how people are reacting to this new condition. In my personal experience, since I was playing away from my teammates and playing a sniper, it wasn't that big of a deal for me. But again, that's just my personal experience. I beat the normal and hard weekly. I will be obviously posting that footage soon, but there was another hard weekly yesterday that I still haven't put out yet. So there's a lot in this patch. I will say, just for a side note, there was a lot that was very cool to try out, because you got to keep in mind, old weapons were buffed. We got a whole bunch of new weapons, and not to mention, I feel like some of these classes feel a little bit differently as well. So yeah, there's a lot to try out, but we are taking our time with the information. I want to make sure that I find good information with friendly fire, but seeing how it is relevant now, I feel like this is definitely something that I've seen a lot of people talk about as far as radiating impact and other perks that might be hurting your teammates. So let's see what we can find out about it. That's weird. I just ran it on my Vanguard on normal to test it, and I'm almost positive that Zone of Impact grapple executes damage nearby enemies, doesn't hurt allies. Maybe it's weapons and equipment only on normal and abilities on heroic or on hard. Posting here to follow up after I've run heroic, I've run hard mode. That is, honestly, I kind of like that name for a difficulty, heroic difficulty. Is that something they changed? No, it says hard. I'm looking at the screen right now. I wouldn't be surprised that Saber half-baked this stratagem to not be consistent for abilities across the board. I gotta be honest, yeah, when it comes to being consistent with abilities across the board, this can be an issue through, like, translation, I guess. I'm not sure, but sometimes the game will tell us something and it will do something slightly different. Basically, not all the descriptions in this game tell the entire story. Most of them are, what they say they are. But yeah, right now I'm looking at suspicious behavior. It does say friendly fire damage from firearms and explosives is enabled. It really doesn't say anything about perks. I truly think this could be a situation maybe where it's just radiating impact if zone of impact isn't effective. But I gotta be honest, I do think Wrath of the Imperium, when shield is completed, or when it's when you use all your shield, it explodes and hurts enemies around you. I really feel like that is definitely on the side more of like an explosive perk, I guess. I didn't really see the difference, to be honest. I would have just assumed AoE damage is AoE damage, but it's actually kind of interesting that we see a difference between AoE damage from Zone of Impact and AoE damage from Radiating Impact. Maybe the game just treats Radiating Impact as possibly like an equipment, and if that's the case, that's pretty interesting as well, right? It's range damage and equipment. The grapple and associated perks are counted as melee, while the radiating impact perk is counted as range damage for some reason. The modifiers don't change between difficulties as far as I'm aware. All right, so that definitely will make a little bit more sense as far as, telling the difference between perks that can hurt your teammates and perks that can't hurt your teammates. To be completely honest, I think something like Wrath of the Imperium on heavy, I would still be a little bit careful of. However, it does feel like things like ambush for sniper, maybe that's not as big as a deal as, like, let's say radiating impact. But as far as I know, we've only seen players getting hurt by radiating impact. So I guess at the very least, we're going to, first of all, we're gonna have to look through the comments on this one. Definitely let me know in the comment section how you guys are dealing with suspicious behavior, the friendly fire condition. But yeah, I did play sniper with ambush. I didn't take any of my teammates down, and I haven't seen bulwark players talk about taking their teammates down with shock fields, which definitely could be a little bit concerning. I think the other way we can tell the difference between these, the damage types, as far as I know, though, radiating impact does not show up at the end of the card, at the end of the mission where you see the stats. I'm not too sure if radiating impact actually shows up in that, but it might. If it is honestly counted as ranged damage, it might show up at the end of the card, which is pretty interesting. So perhaps if the damage you are doing, if it shows up on the card, that is likely damage that you're gonna hurt your teammates with, I guess. But yeah, this is definitely gonna be pretty fun to try to work out. But yeah, again, as far as I know, I haven't seen like assault players slamming on their teammates and taking them out or anything. It really does feel like it is strictly ranged damage and explosives, I guess, but it doesn't say equipment on the description. So if the game counts something like Wrath of the Imperium as an explosive, I genuinely would not be surprised. The modifier is fine. If anything, it's a good way of teaching people to stay out of each other's firing lanes, which you should be doing anyway, even without friendly fire. I had no issue with either version of the weekly. I died once on normal because I was a little close to a Melta, but on normal, it doesn't matter, and the guy who triggered it even apologized. Second round on hard, no issues at all. But beyond maybe a stray round hitting a friendly here or there, our sniper did get murdered in cold blood by our Vanguard once the train was sent, but that doesn't count. Okay. that doesn't count. Okay. I would like to know how that actually happened, but yeah, as far as I've seen, I definitely read a few people talking about how they died in friendly fire. Everyone is pointing at tactical right now, so that, yeah, it seems like radiating impact might be the only perk you guys have to be aware of, but at the very least, definitely have to be aware of it. I do agree, at the very least, it is going to teach people to stay out of each other's firing lanes and everything. Not to mention, things like getting your own executions might be a little bit easier. I still would be very suspicious. Not suspicious. I would be very careful around things like Radiating Impact, Ascension for Assault. We all remember that bug. Wrath of the Imperium for Heavy. I do think Ambush is fine. I was using Ambush with my teammates, but I was staying away from my teammates. I can't really think of anything else that could be that big of an issue. It seems like Intimidating Aura doesn't hurt your teammates, so I assume the shock fields also wouldn't hurt your teammates. But yeah, this is definitely something we're going to have to monitor. I have seen some clips of people goofing around and, you know, PvPing essentially in this, but that might be a different discussion altogether. I do think it's pretty funny, but yeah, I will say I did hurt my teammate once. My teammate walked in front of my shot, and honestly, what's pretty funny about that, if you go back and look at that, that was the second weekly video, again with Sniper and the Heroic Bolt Sniper. My teammate walked in front of my firing shot. It went through my teammate and hit a major. So I find that pretty interesting because, yeah, that is one perk that literally works on friendly fire, is piercing, apparently. So, okay, I guess. Pretty interesting. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys are dealing with friendly fire. Let's try to help each other out on this one. It feels like not enough people are dying from weird things, I guess. So, hey, if that's the case, that's good, to be honest. That's super good. I will say, just as a side note, as far as, like, if you're curious about my opinion of the patch, I will definitely go more into, like, the good and bad of the patch and everything like that. But, it's kind of cool that the only big issue or big controversial issue essentially was the Heroic Bolt Sniper nerf, I guess, which I've actually used a Heroic Bolt Sniper recently and again in the video before this video. And I think it's honestly pretty good against Tyranids. It's really, really good against Tyranids. Could be best in slot. But I haven't used it against Chaos yet. So we will see. We will see. But yeah, patch 11. Very good. Very, very good. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Let me know in the comments if you died to your teammates in any weird ways. And thanks for watching.